This isn't a pharmacy, sweetie. Flight attendant Cheryl Martinez dangled 12-year-old Zara Williams' prescription inhaler between two fingers like a contaminated tissue. Maybe try the gas station bathroom next time. The inhaler hit the bottom of the trash bin with a hollow thud. Gate 47 at Chicago O'Hare fell silent. Passengers looked up from their phones. A businessman lowered his newspaper. A mother pulled her toddler closer. Zara stood frozen, her small chest rising and falling in careful, measured breaths. The kind of breathing you learn when your lungs betray you, when adults decide your medicine looks suspicious. Cheryl dusted off her hands with theatrical disgust, her 15-year veteran badge catching the fluorescent light. Around them, American Airlines Flight 2847 to Atlanta sat waiting. Delayed. Again. Have you ever watched a child's dignity crumble in real time, knowing one phone call could change everything? It started 20 minutes earlier, 2:47 p.m. Gate 47 buzzed with the usual pre-boarding chaos. Business travelers pecked at laptops. Families corralled restless children. Flight 2847 sat at the gate, its engines quiet, waiting for the afternoon departure slot. Zara Williams approached the American Airlines counter with the careful steps of someone who'd learned to navigate adult spaces alone. Her navy blazer was wrinkle-free despite the long morning. Her rolling suitcase followed obediently behind. "Excuse me," she said to Cheryl, who was sorting boarding passes with the mechanical efficiency of 15 years on the job. "I have asthma. My doctor said I should pre-board to avoid the rush." Cheryl didn't look up. "Unaccompanied minors board with families. I have my inhaler right here." Zara pulled the small blue device from her jacket pocket. The prescription label was clearly visible. Zara Williams, albuterol sulfate, Dr. Patricia Carter, Chicago Children's Hospital. Now Cheryl looked. Her eyes moved from the inhaler to Zara's face, then to her clothes, then back to the inhaler. A slow, skeptical scan. Cheryl held out her hand. "Let me see that." Zara handed over her medicine. Cheryl turned the inhaler over in her palm, examining it like a customs agent inspecting contraband. She shook it, held it up to the light, frowned. "This looks generic," she announced, loud enough for nearby passengers to hear. "Real prescriptions don't come in plain packaging like this." The businessman folded his newspaper completely now. A woman with twins stopped organizing her diaper bag. Phones emerged from pockets. "It's from Children's Hospital," Zara said quietly. "The label has my name on it." "Labels can be faked, sweetie." Cheryl's voice carried that particular tone adults use when they've decided you're lying. "I've seen kids try to bring all kinds of things on planes, especially—" She let her gaze travel meaningfully over Zara's face. "Especially what?" The words hung in the air like smoke. India Thompson, a marketing executive traveling back to Atlanta, had been watching from seat 23A in the gate area. Something about the interaction made her stomach twist. She opened Facebook and started a live video. "Y'all seeing this?" she whispered to her phone. "They're giving this little girl a hard time about her asthma medicine." 7 viewers immediately. Then 12. Back at the counter, Cheryl was building her case. Unaccompanied minors aren't supposed to carry prescription medications without proper documentation. "Where's your medical travel form?" Zara's confidence wavered for the first time. "Medical travel form?" "Exactly." Cheryl's smile was sharp. "Real sick kids know about medical travel forms." The security guard, Marcus Johnson, had been watching from his post near the gate. Cheryl caught his eye and waved him over with an exaggerated gesture of concern. "Marcus, we might have a situation here." 2:52 p.m. 8 minutes until boarding. Marcus approached with the measured walk of airport security. Tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of presence that made conversations stop. "What's the problem?" he asked. "This child is trying to board with what appears to be fake medication," Cheryl explained, holding up the inhaler. "No proper documentation. Claims she has asthma but doesn't know basic medical travel procedures. India's viewer count climbed 47, 68, 91. That's not fake, Zara said, her voice smaller now. It's prescribed to me. Can you prove that? Marcus asked. Zara reached into her folder and pulled out a copy of her medical records, a thick stack of papers from Chicago Children's Hospital, emergency room visits, specialist consultations, years of documented asthma treatment. Cheryl barely glanced at them. These could be printed from anywhere. Kids today know how to use computers. The woman with twins muttered something to her husband. He shook his head in disgust. Not at Cheryl, at Zara. Maybe she shouldn't be flying alone if she's really sick, the woman said, loud enough to be heard. India's phone buzzed with comments. This is discrimination. Poor baby. Record everything. Where are her parents? 93 viewers and climbing. 2:55 p.m., 5 minutes until boarding. You know what I think? Cheryl leaned against the counter, settling in for the long haul. I think someone's playing dress-up. Unaccompanied minors don't fly first class, honey. Someone's trying to scam their way into a better seat. First class. The words hit like a revelation. Other passengers craned their necks, trying to see Zara's boarding pass. Gate agent Kevin Park emerged from behind the counter. Mid-30s, tired eyes, the look of someone who'd seen every airport scam in the book. Problem here? He asked Cheryl. Possible ticket fraud, she said. This child claims to have a first-class seat and medical needs, but her story doesn't add up. Kevin's eyebrows rose. First-class tickets for unaccompanied minors were rare, expensive. They required special authorization, guardian approval, payment methods that most families couldn't access. Can I see your ticket? He asked Zara. She handed over her boarding pass. Kevin examined it with the same suspicious intensity Cheryl had used on the inhaler. Seat 2A, he announced. That's a $2,200 upgrade from coach. Murmurs rippled through the gate area. Passengers exchanged glances. A 12-year-old girl, first class, alone. The math didn't compute in their minds. India's live stream hit 156 viewers. Comments flooded faster than she could read them. 2:57 p.m., 3 minutes until boarding. I'm going to need to see additional identification, Kevin said, and we'll need to verify the payment method for this ticket. First-class purchases require adult authorization. Zara reached into her folder again. Her movements were still calm, but something had shifted. Her shoulders straightened slightly. Her chin lifted a degree. She pulled out her phone and typed a single message. Then she looked up at Kevin, at Cheryl, at Marcus, at the growing crowd of passengers watching her like she was airport entertainment. I think, she said quietly, you should call your supervisor. The first boarding announcement echoed through the terminal. First class and elite members were invited to board, but nobody moved toward the gate. Everyone was watching the 12-year-old girl who somehow had seat 2A and the quiet confidence of someone who knew something they didn't. 2:59 p.m. 1 minute until boarding. Gate supervisor Patricia Carter emerged from the jet bridge with the brisk efficiency of someone accustomed to solving problems. 40-something silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun, the kind of supervisor who'd climbed the ranks by never backing down. What's the holdup? She asked Kevin. Potential ticket fraud, he replied, gesturing toward Zara. Unaccompanied minor with a first-class seat. No proper medical documentation. Suspicious prescription medication. Patricia's gaze swept over Zara with practiced assessment. I am 12 years old, black, alone, first class. In her experience, these pieces rarely fit together legitimately. Let me see everything, she said. Zara handed over her documents again. Boarding pass, medical records, ID card. The same papers she'd shown 3 times already. Patricia examined each document with deliberate slowness. Behind her, passengers in the boarding line grew restless. The gate agent's microphone crackled with another announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, We're experiencing a minor delay. Please remain seated while we resolve a documentation issue. India's Facebook live stream hit 312 viewers. Her phone battery dropped to 68%. She'd been recording for 12 minutes now, and the comments section exploded with outrage. This is disgusting! Call the news! Where's the manager? Someone help that baby! This is why I don't fly American. Screenshots began circulating on Twitter. The hashtag #Gate47 started trending in Chicago. 3:00 p.m. Boarding time. These medical records look comprehensive, Patricia admitted, flipping through the stack. But anyone can print hospital letterhead these days. Medical tourism scams are increasingly sophisticated. She held up Zara's inhaler, examining it under the harsh gate lighting. This packaging does look generic. Most prescription medications have more detailed labeling. Marcus shifted his weight, hand moving unconsciously toward his radio. In his 8 years of airport security, he'd learned to trust the airline staff's judgment. They knew their business. "Ma'am," he said to Zara, "I'm going to need you to step aside for additional screening." The circle was tightening. Airline staff on 3 sides, security guard on the 4th. Zara stood in the center, a 12-year-old island surrounded by adult authority. Other passengers began taking sides. The businessman with the newspaper shook his head in disgust. The mother with twins whispered to her husband about kids these days. But a college student near Gate 46 had started recording on her iPhone. An elderly black woman in the front row of the gate area stood up, watching with careful attention. "This is ridiculous," said David Kim, a software engineer heading home to Atlanta. "She's a kid with asthma. Let her on the plane." "She's trying to scam the system," countered Janet Walsh, a real estate agent from Lincoln Park. "My daughter's 12. She wouldn't know how to book a first-class ticket." The divide was forming, passengers choosing sides based on what they believed 12-year-old black girls were capable of. 3:02 p.m. Official boarding delay. "I'm going to need to contact Child Protective Services," Patricia announced. "An unaccompanied minor with questionable documentation and expensive tickets raises red flags for human trafficking." The words hit like a physical blow. Human trafficking. The ultimate escalation. The nuclear option that justified any level of intervention. Zara's breathing hitched. Not from asthma, but from the weight of accusation. Being treated like a criminal was one thing. Being treated like a victim of trafficking was another level entirely. India's viewer count spiked to 847. Someone had shared her live stream in a Facebook group with 15,000 members. Local news stations monitored social media for breaking stories. This was becoming one. "That's enough," called the elderly black woman from the front row. Dorothy Williams Johnson, retired teacher, grandmother of 6. She walked toward the commotion with the determined stride of someone who'd fought these battles before. "This child is being harassed," Dorothy announced. "I've been watching for 15 minutes. She's shown every document you've asked for. Her medicine is clearly labeled. Her ticket is legitimate. What exactly is the problem here?" Patricia turned to face the new challenger. "Ma'am, this is an airline security matter. Please return to your seat." "I'm a paying customer on this flight," Dorothy replied. "And I'm watching a child be discriminated against because adults can't believe she belongs in first class." The word hung in the air like an accusation. Discrimination. The thing everyone was thinking but nobody wanted to say. "This isn't about race," Cheryl protested, but her voice carried the defensive tone of someone who knew exactly what it was about. 3:04 p.m. Zara checked her phone. One new message. "Daddy's handling it, baby girl. Hold your head high." She looked up at the circle of adults surrounding her. Patricia with her clipboard of authority. Kevin with his suspicious glare. Cheryl with her 15-year veteran badge. Marcus with his hand on his radio. Something shifted in her posture. The scared child facade melted away, replaced by something else. Quiet confidence. The kind of calm that comes from knowing help is on the way. "I think," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the gate area, You should take this call. Her phone buzzed once. Then Patricia's radio crackled. Then Kevin's computer screen flashed with an urgent message. From the jet bridge, a hurried voice called out, "Patricia! Executive team to Gate 47, now!" The airport's PA system hummed to life. "Operations management to Gate 47. Priority response requested." India's Facebook Live exploded with viewers. 1,247 and climbing fast. The comments moved too quickly to read, but one word appeared repeatedly. Viral. Patricia's radio squawked with static and urgent voices. Kevin's computer screen is filled with priority alerts. Marcus received a call on his cell phone that made his face go pale. Through it all, Zara stood quietly in the center of the chaos, no longer looking like a child being interrogated. She looked like someone waiting for the cavalry to arrive. And from the expression on her face, they were almost here. The businessman folded his newspaper completely and stared. The mother with twins stopped organizing her diaper bag. Even the college student lowered her iPhone, sensing that whatever was about to happen was bigger than a simple documentation dispute. Gate 47 had become the center of O'Hare International Airport's attention, and 12-year-old Zara Williams was the eye of the storm. 3:06 p.m. James Wilson, airport operations manager, arrived at Gate 47 with the hurried pace of someone responding to a crisis. 22 years at O'Hare had taught him to recognize when situations required immediate attention. The combination of social media alerts, executive calls, and security flags had triggered every warning system in his office. He approached Patricia with the grim efficiency of damage control. "What's the situation?" "Unaccompanied minor with questionable documentation," Patricia explained. "Potential ticket fraud, possible trafficking concerns. We've followed all protocols." Wilson's radio erupted with static. "Operations Manager Wilson, please take line 1 immediately. Corporate priority call." He stepped aside, pressing his earpiece. The voice on the other end was crisp, urgent, unmistakably executive-level authority. Regional Vice President Angela Hayes calling from American Airlines headquarters in Fort Worth. "Jim, you need to de-escalate the situation at Gate 47 immediately. We have a code black discrimination incident going viral across social media platforms. The current Facebook live stream has 1,847 viewers and is climbing exponentially. Twitter, hashtag Gate47 discrimination is trending in 3 states. This is about to become a corporate crisis." Wilson's face went pale. He glanced at Zara, still standing calmly in the center of the commotion. 25 minutes of interrogation, and she looked more composed than the adults surrounding her. "Ma'am, the passenger appears to be a standard unaccompanied minor case." "The passenger," Hayes interrupted, her voice sharp with urgency, "is Zara Williams. Her father is Damon Williams, board member of American Airlines and managing partner of Williams Investment Group. He owns 3.2% of our outstanding stock through his investment firm and chairs our corporate governance committee." The words hit Wilson like a freight train. Damon Williams. Damon Williams, who'd led the board's diversity initiative for 3 years, who'd personally recruited 2 minority board members, who'd pushed through the company's most aggressive anti-discrimination policies in company history. Wilson's eyes moved from his radio to Zara, seeing her completely differently now. The confident posture wasn't defiance, it was breeding. The calm demeanor wasn't unusual for a scared child. It was the composure of someone raised in boardrooms and taught to handle pressure. The expensive first-class ticket wasn't fraud, it was pocket change for a family worth $847 million. "Oh, God," Wilson whispered, watching India's viewer count tick higher in real time. 2,156, 2,203, 2,287. "It gets exponentially worse," Hayes continued. "Mr. Williams is currently inbound from New York in his private Gulfstream G650, ETA 38 minutes. His law firm, Williams & Associates, specializes in corporate discrimination cases. They've never lost." Delta settled for $12 million in 2019 after their gate agent incident. United paid $8 million in 2021 for the Louisville case. Southwest paid $15 million last year for the Phoenix situation. Wilson felt his career flashing before his eyes. What are the immediate instructions? Mr. Williams has already contacted our chief legal officer. He's not seeking monetary compensation, yet. He wants systemic change. Mandatory unconscious bias training for all customer-facing employees. Third-party discrimination monitoring systems. Monthly diversity compliance reports directly to the board. Real-time social media monitoring protocols. The operations manager looked at the scene unfolding before him. Cheryl, still holding Zara's inhaler like evidence of a crime. Kevin, convinced he'd caught a sophisticated ticket scammer. Marcus, hand on his radio, ready to escalate to airport police. Patricia, preparing to contact Child Protective Services for suspected human trafficking. All of them were completely unaware they were systematically harassing the daughter of their employer's most influential board member. "And if we don't comply?" Wilson asked, though he already knew the answer. $40 to $60 million lawsuit. Congressional hearings on systemic airline discrimination. Department of Transportation investigation. Stock price freefall. Regulatory sanctions. Do I need to continue? Wilson ended the call and approached Zara directly. The adults who'd been surrounding her stepped back unconsciously, sensing a seismic shift in dynamics they couldn't comprehend. "Miss Williams," he said quietly, "I believe there's been a serious misunderstanding." Zara looked up at him with eyes that seemed far older than 12. "Yes, sir. I believe there has been." Her phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it and smiled, the first genuine expression of joy she'd shown since approaching Cheryl's counter 27 minutes earlier. "My daddy says he'll be here in 36 minutes, she announced to the circle of adults who'd spent the last half hour questioning her credibility, examining her medicine, and doubting her right to exist in first class. "He's bringing Mr. Patterson and Ms. Rodriguez from his legal team." Patricia's clipboard clattered to the floor. Kevin's confident expression melted into confusion mixed with dawning horror. Cheryl's grip on the inhaler loosened so dramatically she nearly dropped it. "Legal team?" Marcus asked, his voice cracking slightly. India's live stream had exploded. Viewers, 3,147 and climbing. The comments section moved too fast to read, but certain phrases appeared repeatedly. "Daddy's a board member!" "They're so screwed!" "Justice incoming!" "This is about to get good!" "Corporate head's gonna roll!" Someone had screenshot the key moments and posted them to Twitter with the caption, "12-year-old black girl with asthma harassed by American Air staff for 30 minutes. Plot twist, her dad owns the company. Hashtag Zara Williams. Airline discrimination, hashtag justice. The tweet had 847 retweets in 4 minutes. Wilson's radio crackled again. This time it was Margaret Foster, O'Hare's executive director. "Jim, I just received calls from the mayor's office, the Chicago NAACP, and Channel 7 News. They're all monitoring social media. ABC7 is dispatching a news crew with ETA for 15 minutes. We need this resolved before it becomes the lead story on the evening news." Too late for that, Wilson thought, watching real-time social media metrics climb on his phone. Zara Williams was trending nationally now. American Airlines was trending with predominantly negative sentiment. The company's official Twitter account was being flooded with demands for accountability. 3:14 p.m. Angela Hayes materialized at Gate 47 with the supernatural speed of crisis management. She'd caught the first available flight from Dallas the moment her assistant had shown her the viral video metrics. Regional Vice President of Customer Experience, 30-year airline veteran, specialist in corporate damage control. She moved through the airport with the purposeful stride of someone accustomed to cleaning up million-dollar disasters. She surveyed the scene with professional assessment. Dozens of smartphone cameras recording, confused employees clustering at safe distances, viral video documentation in progress, news crews en route, and at the center of it all, a 12-year-old girl who'd been systematically dehumanized for the crime of flying first class while black. Hayes approached Zara directly, ignoring the airline staff who'd created the crisis. "Miss Williams, I'm Angela Hayes, Regional Vice President for Customer Experience. On behalf of American Airlines, I want to personally apologize for the discriminatory treatment you've received today. This is not who we are as a company." "Thank you," Zara replied with the polite formality her father had drilled into her. "I appreciate that, Ms. Hayes." Cheryl's face had gone ashen. 15 years of employment, pension benefits, health insurance, all of it flashing before her eyes. Kevin stared at his computer screen, which now displayed priority alerts he'd never seen before, each one escalating the severity of the situation. Patricia clutched her radio like a lifeline to a sinking ship. "The medication?" Hayes said, turning to face Cheryl with barely controlled fury. "Please return Miss Williams' prescription inhaler immediately." Cheryl fumbled with the small blue device, her hands shaking so badly she dropped it twice before successfully placing it in Zara's outstretched palm. "Thank you," Zara said with dignity that highlighted the adult's lack thereof, checking the device for damage before slipping it back into her jacket pocket. Hayes pulled out her phone and began typing rapidly. "I'm authorizing immediate first-class boarding for Miss Williams. Full concierge service. Whatever accommodations she requires." "Ma'am," Wilson interrupted quietly. "Her father specifically requested that we wait for his arrival." Hayes paused her typing. "ETA? 24 minutes. The gate area had transformed into a corporate apocalypse. Passengers openly recording with smartphones, posting to Instagram stories, going live on TikTok. Airport employees gather at respectful distances, whispering among themselves. India's Facebook live stream is approaching 4,200 viewers, with shares multiplying exponentially across every social media platform known to humanity. Local news alerts were already pushing to phones across Chicago. Discrimination incident at O'Hare goes viral. American Airlines staff accused of harassing 12-year-old passenger. Zara stood in the center of it all, no longer the frightened child who'd asked to pre-board 31 minutes earlier. She was the calm eye of a corporate hurricane, the daughter of a board member who'd been taught from birth to document discrimination, maintain dignity, and let institutional systems work on her behalf. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from her father. "Proud of how you handled yourself, baby girl. The whole board is watching the live stream. Change is coming. See you soon." She looked up at the adults who'd questioned her medicine, doubted her ticket, accused her of fraud, suggested she was a trafficking victim, demanded additional identification, and treated her like a criminal. All because they couldn't believe a 12-year-old black girl belonged in first class. All because unconscious bias had convinced them that black children don't have wealthy parents. "While we wait for my daddy," Zara said with quiet dignity that made every adult in earshot feel small, "maybe someone could explain why my prescription asthma inhaler from Chicago Children's Hospital looked fake to you." The question hung in the air like an indictment. Because there was no good answer. The inhaler was genuine. The prescription was legitimate. The medical records were comprehensive. The ticket was valid. The only thing that had seemed suspicious to them was her race. Hayes closed her eyes briefly, calculating corporate damage in real time. Stock price implications, legal exposure, regulatory scrutiny, congressional oversight, media coverage, social media backlash, customer boycotts, employee terminations, policy overhauls, all because experienced airline professionals couldn't believe a black child belonged in first class. 22 minutes until Damon Williams arrived with Patterson and Rodriguez, two of the most feared discrimination attorneys in the country. 22 minutes to figure out how to save American Airlines from itself. 3:22 p.m. The Gulfstream G650 touched down at O'Hare's executive terminal with the precision of corporate power in motion. Damon Williams had made the flight from Teterboro in record time, his pilot pushing the aircraft to its limits while his legal team prepared war plans at 41,000 feet. Inside the main terminal, American Airlines' crisis management machinery had kicked into overdrive. Hayes coordinated with corporate headquarters via encrypted video conference. Wilson managed airport operations while monitoring real-time social media analytics. The company's stock price had dropped 1.8% in after-hours trading as Zara Williams trended across 6 countries. Current exposure assessment, Hayes spoke into her headset, addressing the emergency board meeting convened via video conference. Viral video metrics, 47,000 Facebook views, 23,000 Twitter impressions, 156,000 TikTok views, and climbing exponentially. Sentiment analysis shows 94% negative response. Legal estimates potential damages between $40 and $60 million based on precedent cases. Her phone buzzed with notifications from the company's media monitoring service. CNN had picked up the story. The Today Show was requesting interviews. Congressional offices were issuing statements about systemic airline discrimination. At Gate 47, Zara sat calmly in a first-class waiting area chair that Hayes had personally arranged. She reviewed text messages from her father while sipping apple juice and eating complimentary cookies, the kind of premium service that had been denied to her 25 minutes earlier. India's Facebook live stream had evolved into a full documentary. She provided real-time commentary for her 5,847 viewers, explaining the corporate hierarchy responses she was witnessing. Screenshots of her broadcast were being shared faster than her phone could track. "Y'all, this is history being made," she narrated quietly. "This little girl just exposed an entire system with one phone call. Her daddy's about to walk into this airport and change everything." 3:28 p.m. Damon Williams entered Terminal 3, flanked by 2 of Chicago's most formidable discrimination attorneys. David Patterson, senior partner at Patterson & Associates, who'd never lost a corporate bias case. Maria Rodriguez, specialist in federal civil rights law, who'd personally argued 12 cases before appellate courts. Williams moved through the airport with the controlled intensity of someone who'd built a billion-dollar investment firm from nothing. 52 years old, impeccably dressed despite the emergency flight, carrying himself with the quiet authority of someone accustomed to making corporate executives sweat. Airport security recognized him immediately. Williams Investment Group owned stakes in 17 major corporations, including 3.2% of American Airlines. His private equity firm employed 847 people across 12 cities. His foundation had donated $23 million to education initiatives in the past 5 years. He was not someone you wanted to make angry, especially when you'd spent 35 minutes systematically humiliating his 12-year-old daughter. 3:31 p.m. Williams arrived at Gate 47 to find a scene that would have been comical if it weren't so damaging to his company's reputation. Dozens of passengers recording with phones, news crews setting up equipment, airport executives hovering nervously, airline staff who looked like they were facing execution, and in the center of it all, his daughter, sitting with perfect posture and dignity, reviewing homework while adults scrambled to undo the damage they'd caused. "Daddy!" Zara stood and walked toward him with the composure she'd maintained throughout the entire ordeal. Williams embraced her, his fury carefully controlled. "How are you feeling, baby girl?" "I'm okay. My inhaler's fine," Ms. Hayes apologized. She gestured toward the regional VP, who approached with the careful steps of someone walking toward judgment. "Mr. Williams," Hayes extended her hand. "Angela Hayes, Regional Vice President, I want to personally—" "Save it," Williams interrupted quietly. "I watched the entire live stream from my plane. I saw how your employees treated my daughter, how they questioned her medicine, accused her of fraud, suggested human trafficking. Over 30 minutes of systematic discrimination." Patterson stepped forward with a legal pad filled with notes. "Mr. Williams, we've documented 17 separate instances of discriminatory behavior captured on video, civil rights violations under federal statutes, 42 U.S.C. 1981 and 1983, potential damages." "David," Williams held up a hand. "Let's hear what American Airlines proposes to do about this first." The corporate executives exchanged glances. They'd prepared for this moment during the 20-minute flight from headquarters, gaming out scenarios and calculating acceptable losses. Hayes pulled out her tablet. We're prepared to offer full compensation. First-class flights for life for your entire family. A $250,000 settlement for the emotional distress caused to Zara. Public apology from our CEO. Immediate termination of the employees involved. Williams looked at his daughter, who was listening with the attention of someone who'd been taught to understand business negotiations from childhood. That's insulting, he said simply. You think this is about money? Sir, we want to make this right. Making this right means ensuring it never happens to another child. Williams pulled out his own tablet, displaying a comprehensive reform proposal his team had drafted during the flight. Here's what systemic change looks like. He began reading from prepared notes. Mandatory unconscious bias training for all customer-facing employees, conducted quarterly with certification requirements. Third-party monitoring system that analyzes customer interactions for discriminatory patterns. Real-time social media monitoring with immediate escalation protocols for discrimination incidents. Patterson added, monthly diversity compliance reports submitted directly to the board of directors. Anonymous reporting system for employees and customers to flag bias incidents. Customer advocate position created at the executive level, reporting directly to the CEO. Rodriguez continued. Industry-wide discrimination prevention fund of $5 million annually, managed jointly by major airlines to develop best practices and training programs. Public quarterly progress reports on discrimination reduction metrics. Hayes typed frantically on her tablet, forwarding the demands to the emergency board meeting. The response came back within 90 seconds. Accept all terms immediately. Legal estimates fighting this would cost 40 to 60 million plus irreparable reputational damage. Mr. Williams, Hayes said, American Airlines accepts your proposed reforms. We'll implement these changes within 60 days, with the monitoring systems operational within 30 days. Williams looked around at the crowd of witnesses still recording. The viral nature of the incident had created unprecedented leverage. Corporate accountability through social media had proven more effective than years of traditional legal challenges. There's one more requirement, he said. Public acknowledgement, not a corporate statement buried in press releases. Personal accountability from every employee who participated in discriminating against my daughter. Cheryl stepped forward, her face streaked with tears. Mr. Williams, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I let my assumptions cloud my judgment. I treated Zara terribly because I couldn't believe a young black girl belonged in first class. There's no excuse for what I did. The apology was captured on multiple live streams, recorded by dozens of phones, documented for posterity. Kevin followed. I supported discriminatory actions because I made racist assumptions about your daughter's legitimacy as a first-class passenger. I was completely wrong. Patricia, Marcus, each took responsibility in front of the viral audience that had witnessed their discrimination. Williams nodded. Accountability is the first step toward change. He turned to address the crowd of passengers and cameras directly. This isn't about punishment. It's about progress. My daughter handled 35 minutes of discrimination with more grace than many adults show in comfortable situations. She documented everything, maintained her dignity, and trusted that systems would work. Zara smiled up at her father. You taught me to let my character speak first. And it did, baby girl. And it did. 3:47 p.m. The corporate showdown was over. American Airlines had capitulated completely, accepting reforms that would reshape industry practices. The viral incident had created more systemic change in 45 minutes than years of traditional activism had achieved. Stock prices had stabilized once investors realized the company was responding decisively rather than defensively. Legal exposure was eliminated through comprehensive reform rather than costly litigation. The discrimination incident had transformed into a case study of corporate accountability done right. Williams picked up his daughter's rolling suitcase. Ready to go to Atlanta? Can we fly first class? Zara asked with a mischievous smile. Baby girl, Williams laughed. You can fly anywhere you want, however you want, for the rest of your life. The crowd of witnesses burst into spontaneous applause as father and daughter walked toward the jet bridge, their dignity intact, their victory complete. 6 weeks later, American Airlines Training Center, Dallas-Fort Worth. Cheryl Martinez sat in the front row of Conference Room B, along with 247 other customer service employees participating in the company's new mandatory bias awareness program. The same woman who'd thrown a 12-year-old's inhaler in the trash now served as a case study in unconscious discrimination. The training instructor, Dr. Sarah Carter from Northwestern University's Bias Research Institute, clicked to the next slide. Real-world consequences of unchecked bias. Zara Williams's face appeared on the screen, the viral moment when she'd asked why her medicine looked fake. This incident cost American Airlines $2.3 million in immediate crisis response, Dr. Carter explained. Stock price volatility, emergency board meetings, legal consultations, policy overhauls, but the real cost was human dignity, a child's trust in adult fairness. Cheryl raised her hand. Dr. Carter, I was the flight attendant in this case. I'd like to share what I learned. She stood, facing her colleagues. I convinced myself I was following protocols, but I was really following prejudices. I saw a young black girl with expensive tickets and assumed fraud. I examined her prescription medication like evidence of a crime. I questioned her right to be there based on nothing but race. Murmurs rippled through the room. Real accountability from real people carried more weight than corporate policies. The hardest part, Cheryl continued, was realizing I'm not a bad person who did something racist. I'm a regular person whose unconscious biases led to discriminatory actions. That's actually more dangerous, because I didn't recognize it happening. Dr. Carter nodded. Ms. Martinez demonstrates crucial self-awareness. Bias isn't about conscious hatred. It's about unconscious assumptions that influence behavior in ways we don't recognize. Meanwhile, at Chicago O'Hare, Gate 47 had been transformed. A new digital monitoring system tracked customer interactions in real time, analyzing tone, body language, and response patterns for signs of discriminatory treatment. The AI system, developed jointly by American Airlines and Williams Investment Group, flagged potential bias incidents within minutes, rather than requiring viral videos to expose problems. Patricia Carter, the former gate supervisor who'd escalated Zara's case to Child Protective Services, now worked as a customer advocacy specialist. Her new role involved investigating bias complaints and ensuring fair treatment protocols were followed. Her first-hand experience with discrimination had made her unexpectedly effective at recognizing and preventing similar incidents. I understand what it feels like to be wrong, she explained to new employee trainees. To let assumptions override evidence. To convince yourself you're protecting company interests while actually harming real people. That perspective helps me spot problems before they escalate. The transformation wasn't limited to American Airlines. Within 30 days of the Zara Williams incident, Delta, United, Southwest, and JetBlue had all implemented similar bias monitoring systems. The viral nature of the discrimination had created industry-wide accountability pressure that traditional regulatory approaches had failed to achieve. Congressional hearings had followed, but they focused on positive reform rather than punitive measures. Representative Alexandria Johnson from Illinois praised American Airlines' response during Transportation Committee testimony. When corporations face accountability through social media transparency, they can choose defensiveness or transformation. American Airlines chose transformation. The numbers told the story of systemic change. 23% reduction in customer discrimination complaints across all major airlines in the first quarter, following implementation. 89% of airline employees reported increased awareness of unconscious bias in post-training assessments. $5.2 million invested industry-wide in bias prevention training programs. 47 new customer advocate positions created across major carriers. At Williams Investment Group headquarters in Chicago, Damon Williams reviewed quarterly diversity reports from American Airlines. His assistant, Jennifer Park, summarized the data. Discrimination incidents down 31% year over year. Customer satisfaction scores up 18% among minority passengers. Employee bias training completion rate, 100%. Williams smiled, remembering his daughter's calm dignity during 35 minutes of systematic mistreatment. Schedule a board call with American's executive team. I want to hear their 6-month implementation progress directly. The reform initiatives had created unexpected benefits beyond discrimination reduction. Airlines discovered that bias training improved overall customer service quality. Employees who learned to recognize unconscious assumptions about passengers also became better at identifying and meeting diverse customer needs. Marcus Johnson, the security guard who'd been ready to escalate Zara's case to airport police, now served as O'Hare's bias incident response coordinator. His security background helped him recognize potential discrimination situations before they required intervention. I was trained to see threats, he explained to airport staff during monthly bias awareness sessions. But I wasn't trained to recognize when I might be the threat to someone else's dignity. A 12-year-old girl with asthma wasn't a security risk. My assumptions about her were the real danger. The monitoring systems had caught 17 potential bias incidents in their first 60 days of operation. Each case was resolved through immediate intervention and additional training rather than viral social media exposure. The technology created accountability without requiring victims to endure discrimination until it became a public spectacle. India Thompson, whose Facebook live stream had documented the original incident, received recognition from the Chicago NAACP for her role in exposing systemic bias. Her quick thinking to record the discrimination had provided evidence that traditional complaint processes rarely captured. Social media gets criticized for a lot of things, she said during her acceptance speech. But it can also be a tool for justice. When institutions fail to protect people, sometimes we have to protect each other by bearing witness. 6 months after the incident, Zara Williams returned to O'Hare for another flight to Atlanta. She approached Gate 47 with the same rolling suitcase, the same first-class ticket, the same prescription inhaler in her jacket pocket. The difference was transformational. Gate agents greeted her warmly. Security personnel nodded respectfully. The bias monitoring system tracked every interaction, ensuring fair treatment through technological accountability. But the most meaningful change was human. Cheryl Martinez was working at a different gate that day, but she made a point of approaching Zara during boarding. "Zara, I wanted to thank you," she said quietly. "Your grace under pressure taught me more about dignity than I'd learned in 50 years. You made me a better person." Zara smiled. "Thank you for learning from it, Ms. Martinez. That's what growth looks like." The exchange was brief, but profound. Accountability has led to education. Education has created understanding. Understanding had fostered genuine change. As Zara boarded her flight, first class, without question, without suspicion, without discrimination, she represented more than successful reform implementation. She embodied the possibility that individual dignity and systemic change could coexist, that real-life stories of injustice could become touching stories of transformation, that Black voices, when amplified by technology and supported by allies, could reshape entire industries. 1 year later, Zara Williams, now 13, stood at the podium of the National Youth Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. Behind her, a banner read, "Dignity in Action, Young Voices for Change." In the audience, 847 students from across the country listened as she shared her story. "When that flight attendant threw my inhaler in the trash, she wasn't just discarding my medicine," Zara said with the same quiet confidence she'd shown at Gate 47. "She was throwing away the idea that I belonged in that space. But here's what I learned that day. Dignity isn't something other people can take from you. It's something you carry inside yourself." The audience erupted in applause. Her father watched from the back of the auditorium, filming on his phone like any proud parent. American Airlines had become an unexpected case study in corporate transformation. The company's quarterly diversity reports showed sustained improvement. Discrimination complaints down 34% year over year, customer satisfaction scores among minority passengers up 27%, employee bias awareness ratings at all-time highs. More importantly, the industry-wide changes had prevented countless other children from experiencing what Zara endured. The bias monitoring systems had flagged 312 potential discrimination incidents across major airlines in their first year, resolving each through immediate intervention and additional training. Dr. Sarah Carter's research team at Northwestern had documented the Williams effect, the phenomenon where single viral incidents of discrimination, when met with comprehensive reform rather than defensive denial, could create lasting institutional change across entire industries. Traditional civil rights progress often required decades of legal battles, Dr. Carter explained in her latest paper. But strategic use of social media transparency, combined with corporate board-level pressure, compressed that timeline from decades to months. The touching stories emerging from this transformation went beyond policy changes. Kevin Park, the gate agent who'd questioned Zara's ticket validity, had used his experience to develop bias recognition training now used by airports across North America. Patricia Carter had created the Customer Advocacy Network, connecting discrimination prevention specialists across the travel industry. Even Marcus Johnson had found purpose in his transformation. His security background helped him develop rapid response protocols for bias incidents, preventing escalation while protecting dignity. But the most powerful change was cultural. A generation of airline employees had learned that unconscious bias wasn't a character flaw. It was a human tendency that required constant vigilance and systemic accountability to overcome. India Thompson's original Facebook Live video had been viewed 2.3 million times. It was now used in corporate training programs, university sociology courses, and social justice workshops, as an example of how citizen journalism could expose institutional failures and create pressure for reform. Sometimes change happens because good people are willing to document uncomfortable truths, India reflected during a recent interview. That little girl's courage, combined with her father's strategic response, proved that individual dignity and systemic power could work together instead of against each other. Zara's story had become more than a viral moment. It represented a new model for addressing discrimination. Instead of choosing between personal healing and institutional change, the Williams family had insisted on both. They'd transformed individual trauma into collective progress. As Zara concluded her speech in Washington, she offered the same question that had opened her story. Have you ever watched injustice happen and wondered if you could make a difference? She paused, looking out at hundreds of young faces. The answer is yes, but it requires three things: the courage to document what you see, the wisdom to respond strategically rather than emotionally, and the persistence to demand systemic change rather than just individual apologies. The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Your dignity matters. These real-life stories of transformation prove that individual courage, when amplified by community support and strategic action, can reshape entire systems. Zara Williams didn't just reclaim her own dignity. She created space for countless other children to travel without fear of discrimination. But this is just one story among thousands waiting to be told. Black voices across America are documenting injustice, demanding accountability, and creating change through the power of truth-telling and strategic action. What discrimination have you witnessed? What injustice needs to be exposed? What system needs to be changed? Share your experiences in the comments below. Let your voice join the chorus of people who refuse to accept discrimination as normal. Every story shared makes it harder for institutions to ignore the reality of bias in their systems. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for Black Voices Uncut, where we amplify stories of strategic resistance, systemic change, and the quiet power of dignity under pressure. Together, we're not just sharing touching stories. We're building a movement that transforms individual experiences into collective power for justice. Your story could be next. Are you ready to be heard? To be